Bitcoin is about to destroy the competition. And I'm not just talking about the US dollar. I'm also talking about probably outpacing other cryptos. If you have money in cryptocurrency, if you have altcoins or you have Bitcoin, you should watch this video to the end because we're going to be going through a lot of important data coming from Bitcoin, coming from other cryptocurrencies, looking at charts. And the whole video is jam-packed with good information. If you need to, if it's too boring, if I talk too slow, just put it on 1.25x speed or something like that. And to be clear, I am 80% Bitcoin when you consider my cryptocurrency portfolio. I could be higher, but this is going to be a hedge. I have 20% other cryptos. I'm not 80% Bitcoin in my entire portfolio. I know as soon as Bitcoin falls down, which inevitably it will, I'll get a lot of people in the comments saying, oh, it's so great that you went 80% Bitcoin. You're down so much. But again, I am diversified. I have stocks. I have real estate as well. I have cash. But crypto specifically, I'm very heavy Bitcoin. I could always be wrong, but I'm going to lay out why that is. If you don't mind, hit the subscribe button underneath the video. That way you can see every time I post a video and turn that bell notification because some of this is pretty time sensitive. Some of it is really important. You need to watch pretty quickly. Now, today's video is going to be great for a while. I think it stands up and the information here is really good. So if you want to see exactly when I'm buying and selling, because I have been buying consistently over the last couple months in stocks specifically, but also a bit of crypto at key levels, you can check out the link underneath the video to the Patreon. There's also a link down there to Margex in case you want to leverage trade. Now, Bitcoin has looked extremely good the last week. We went from 20,000 jumping right off of that 200-day moving average all the way up to 27,000 basically. We hit a little bit of resistance there right now, but with everything that's going on in the economy and everything that's come out over the last week, there's no question that it's bullish for Bitcoin. And we broke through prior resistances that we had seen around 25,200. Today we broke over what we had just seen a few days ago when we retreated from just over 26,000. And, I'm not saying to go buy right now if you've been holding for a long time, you've just been holding cash, but there's a reason that I've been consistently buying this bear market. And first of all, obviously this all started with Silicon Valley Bank about a week ago. Everyone realized how illiquid the banking system could be. There are people that had $50 million at a bank and they thought that they were only going to be able to get $250,000 out. Now, the U.S. government has come and backstopped that, but people realize that they need some other kind of alternative, especially because, the Fed can backstop it. They can inject money up to $2 trillion into the economy, but that's going to cause more inflation, right? Inflation's coming down right now. But that behind the scenes, there's going to be things that get more expensive, especially assets. Assets are going to get more expensive when the Fed is pumping in $300 billion in a week into the system, increasing their balance sheet. It can come in different ways, but right now it's basically buying these bonds from banks at face value. Now, at the same time, inflation is coming down. It's supposedly coming down. The Truflation, which looks at different prices online, continues to come down. 4.3%. We got some good CPIs, PPIs. So all this is, showing that crypto should do well because risk assets will do well in this kind of environment with all this increase in liquidity. But there's something happening specifically with Bitcoin that I think is really important. First of all, people are starting to realize maybe Bitcoin's safer than the banks. At least a portion should be in Bitcoin. And Tim Draper recently said companies should buy at least 2 payrolls worth of Bitcoin. Make it 3 payrolls for good luck. He, if you don't know who he is a really good investor. He has been a really good investor. Now, keep in mind, he's probably invested in hundreds or thousands of companies. These are just some of the best companies and best prices he's bought in at. But he was in on Hotmail in 1996. He was presented by the 2 original owners or the 2 founders. He got 28% of Baidu for $9 million US. He was the first venture capitalist to invest in China through the global fund that he had. So basically a $30 million valuation, a little bit more than that. The company is worth $51 billion now. So he was able to get a 1,500x in 15 years, in 20 years. Skype was another one of his early investments. Tesla in 2006, he was part of the Series C round. Now, it's really hard to figure out what they valued the company at then, but 3 years later, after more government loans and funding, they valued the company at $550 million. So even from there, it was, 1,000x, 2,000x to the top. And this is probably a little bit long-winded at this point, but he's been a big believer in Bitcoin in the past. He bought 30,000 Bitcoin seized from the Silk Road back in 2014. He's been a great investor and been able to invest in technology really early on, and he's still talking about Bitcoin now. I think really shows, there is a future for Bitcoin. One of the biggest investors, not that his word is the only thing that matters, but a really smart and sharp investor sees the potential in Bitcoin and is continuously trying to call it out. There's a massive shift thinking that maybe Bitcoin is safe. Maybe Bitcoin is safer than fiat because you can't inflate it away. There's no entity that's controlling it that's just going to do whatever it needs to do to keep the people in office, basically, and devalue the currency over time. At the same time, we have Bitcoin transactions per day moving up pretty significantly over the last few days. This is kind of an eyesore because there's so many spikes. I wish we could average it out, but basically we can just show the middle of these different transactions, maybe around 250,000 or so, back and forth, 200,000 up to 300,000, back and forth for a year. So consistent activity, 250,000 transactions a day. And you see this recent spike, and it's closer to 300,000 transactions a day. It goes from 250 up to, 350 basically. And why is this happening? Why is there a 20% increase in the transactions per day recently? Because of Bitcoin ordinals. If you haven't heard about this, these are basically NFTs or inscriptions on Bitcoins or on sats. And this is getting a lot of attention. Around the same time, right, that we started to see people search for Bitcoin ordinals, January, February. So when we saw this spike in transactions. So people are using the network for basically similar to NFTs. At the same time, if you look up Ethereum NFTs, there's nothing happening here. And you might say, well, that's because you said Ethereum NFTs instead of NFTs. But you can see there's some more volume back here. It was much higher than Bitcoin ordinals. If we go 5 years back, you can see in 2021, there are actually a lot more people looking up Ethereum NFTs back then. Now it's just falling off a cliff, right? So Bitcoin is almost taking the place of Ethereum, at least in the short term. Not that it's the same thing, but a lot of people say, well, Bitcoin's not used for transactions. But that's not necessarily true. At least on online transactions, they're starting to be used more. They're starting to be used for something besides the store of wealth. And, you can use it. You can trade with it. You can send crypto as payments and stuff. But here's another use case that's definitely causing more transactions on the chain. And this is taking one of the main reasons people use Ethereum, and they're making it their own. So that's pretty interesting. So that's part of the reason I say Bitcoin's going to win. And I'm not saying it's not going to win over ETH in the long term. I'm not saying that it's going to do transactions better than Ethereum or better than other currencies. But definitely in the short term, I think it makes sense that Bitcoin will outperform these other cryptos. And over the long term, it's definitely going to win over USD too. Now, I think dominance will probably fall for Bitcoin over time, but I don't think that's the case right now. If you look here, this is the ETH Bitcoin chart. This trend line I've kept up for months, basically since October last year, once we were right there. And then it was really apparent in December, right? We kept on staying below it. Then we broke above, fell below, broke above, and I've been really patient recently, right? We put in a new high here just from the previous peak, and I thought maybe I should buy some Ethereum. But nope, I waited. Over the last week, this has fallen. We are below where we had previously been months ago, back in October. We're below that now, and we're at a key point. We're at 0.065, basically. We fell down to 0.0645. This is the trend line that we've been seeing for a year. If we break below this, that's pretty bearish. We're also below, actually we're like right at the previous low that we had about 6 months ago or so. This, I think, will continue to fall down. If we look back in previous bear markets, it has fallen down further than here. I mean, even if we just go back to June of 2022, right? We had fallen down to 0.05, which is significantly down from here. That's like a 30% haircut to Ethereum without Bitcoin moving. Previous bear markets, we had seen a lot more than this, right? Ethereum dominance or ETH Bitcoin valuation is up a lot this cycle. Previously, we had seen much lower, like 0.01. I don't think we're going to get back there, but I would not be surprised if we saw 0.05, 0.045, which again would give you a much better buying in price than where it is now. I mean, imagine Ethereum, instead of at 1750, it being at 1300 or something like that, 1200, while Bitcoin's still at 26,000. I think a lot of people would be buying it then. And with Ethereum upgrade coming up, there's going to be some fear, I think, over that. There have been some questions over validators just leaving the network recently. And they're probably going to take their Ethereum out, right? Some people have had Ethereum locked up for a long time. So there's going to be some fear over that. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if it's a little bit overblown in the long term, because I think Ethereum still is going to do really well. I think it's the top layer one for smart contracts outside of Bitcoin, for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw people buy after that. Like there's some fear, people sell, Ethereum versus Bitcoin ratio goes down, but I think that's when we buy. I haven't been buying Ethereum really at all. Now, Bitcoin dominance is also going up, right? We're at 46.64%. It's been on a rampage over last week, going from 43%, under 43%. It hit this previous support that I had actually drawn out. I'd drawn it out before it hit, and then it just bounced right off of it. Pretty much the same one that we had seen before. And now it's up at 46.4 or 46.6%. We had gone higher previously back in June. We went up to about 49%. And I would not be surprised if we went up that high or we even took that out. We had moved up higher then than we did back in October 2021. I would not be surprised if we went up to around 50%, saw some resistance there. Around there is really where I'm going to be looking in, most likely to scale into some more alts. Now, if the market's down at that point, like if the market cools off, which at this point doesn't really look super likely, but we could always see a pullback. If the market cools off by then and the USD valuations go down, I'll probably buy with cash. If the market continues to move up and Bitcoin's at 35 or 40,000, well, I might scale out of my Bitcoin and then move it into those other cryptos because they could actually be up at that point too. Remember, like Ethereum, Bitcoin valuation could be down, but Ethereum could still be at $2,000. If Bitcoin moves up faster than Ethereum, which is what we've seen recently, and we can actually go to CoinGecko. That's what we've been seeing consistently. Bitcoin leading the way, 6.7%. Ethereum up 3.9%. The whole market's up 4.4%. So obviously when Bitcoin's up more than the whole market, Bitcoin dominance is going up. Last 7 days, 30% versus 20%. Name any other crypto in the top 20 that are up 30%. There aren't any. So I think Bitcoin dominance could continue moving up. It's different than every other cryptocurrency. It's safer than every other cryptocurrency for a variety of reasons. It's more decentralized. It's larger. There are a lot of people that don't have access to their coins. There aren't VCs that have 80% of the circulating supply and are just going to drop it on new retail investors, right? It's proven. It's the longest lasting cryptocurrency out there. So I think Bitcoin is by far the most liquid market as well, which is definitely helpful for large investors. And you can see that some of the large investors, some of the largest investors in the world, don't really want to deal with a couple $1 billion market cap, right? If you have a couple $100 million that you want to invest, well, it's going to suck to go invest it in Decentraland, right? You're going to have a $200 million that you're going to put in a $1 billion project. That would pump up 10x overnight. So I think they realize that they have to go with some of the larger cryptos. Sure, they can make small investments in smaller cryptos and early funding rounds and stuff like that. But if you have a couple $1 billion and you want to backstop or you want some kind of hedge, you put it in Bitcoin, right? We're not going to see really large companies go and buy a bunch of Polygon, right? Or a bunch of Shiba Inu or Solana or anything like that just to put in their treasuries. They're going to go buy Bitcoin, especially the next cycle. I think there will be more companies that buy Bitcoin. We already have a handful of them now. One other thing is, to be honest, I have cryptos I think will do really well in my portfolio, but I don't know what's going to be here in the next few years. I don't know what's going to be in the top 10 even, right? There's so much that can happen in a few years. We've seen so many big cryptos blow up recently. And, even if we looked a year ago, it would look very different from what it looks like now, the top 100. And if we look back prior cycles, the whole crypto landscape has changed, right? Barbecue coin was a top 10 or top 20 crypto, and no one has, that I know of, has ever bought it or traded it or sold it. Most people don't even know what it is. So I am picking Bitcoin for another reason, because long term, it makes more sense, I think, than a lot of the other cryptos that have maybe more potential. But Bitcoin probably will 5x over the next couple of years. It's already up 70% from the bottom. I know Bitcoin will probably be around with 98% certainty. It will be around and it will do well in this kind of environment. But I don't know about every other cryptocurrency. I don't know about the teams behind them. I don't know about unlocks. I don't know about black swans. I don't know about adoption and that kind of thing. But Bitcoin, I know, will be here. So do I want a really good chance that I'm going to get a 5 or 10x over the next 5-10 years? Yeah, I'd rather have that. And that's, I think, conservative, 5 to 10x versus maybe a 40% chance, 30% chance that I get a 10 to 15x. I'd rather have the more guaranteed money. That's just my opinion. And you have to think about taxes as well, right? If you can buy Bitcoin and you can wait a year, you're probably not too concerned with it. Maybe you get a little itchy to sell or to buy more or something like that. But chances are you can get in a lower tax bracket. Of course, consult a tax professional. Well, that's something to consider too. But all this is a little bit lengthy. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts on this underneath the video. Do you think this is right? Do you think Bitcoin will go up? Dominance will go up? Do you think it will go down? Does it matter? Does it not matter to you? Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Again, links underneath the video in case you want to help out the channel. Try out some new platforms. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.